The World Economic Forum recently showed their hand with regards to cryptocurrency and decentralized finance in particular. Could this be the beginning of crypto's great reset? I'm Ian, this is Brokenomics, and we're going to get stuck into that right now. Cheers lads, and I hope you enjoy. In terms of the content of this document, there's really not a lot there. Your little brother could have written it in 4th class. It's basically like, here's how to use a wallet, here's how to deposit on exchange, here's what a node is, all the kind of very basic stuff we all learn when we first get into crypto, which is not surprising because that's what it's encouraging people to do. But when we go a little further down the document, we start to find some very interesting things, including the World Economic Forum shilling 6 cryptocurrencies in particular. So there's a couple of really interesting aspects here, not least actually when you see who's behind the document. But anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. For now, let's just think of it like this. If you want a solid blockchain, you want 3 things. You want your scalability, which is measured in transactions per second. You want your security, and you want your decentralization. Now, we can easily see why, the World Economic Forum may not be too keen on utter decentralization, and maybe, security isn't top of their priority list either, because the only basis on which they seem to rank these tokens, or shield them essentially in their document, is on the basis of transactions per second. So we know that Algorand does 1,000, then Cardano does 250, and Celo also does 1,000 transactions per second. But absolutely no credence whatsoever in the document is given to the other 2 corners of the triumvirate, security and decentralization. When I saw these 6 coins being shilled in their document, of course the first thing I did was went and looked at price action. Has it had an effect? The general market's down heaps. Have these coins done any better as a result of effectively being shilled? So in the case of Algorand, it had a June high of $1.07 and it now sits at 87 cents. So no doubts there. It's definitely holding up better than most things. You can't question that. But in terms of Algorand as well, we have to remember that the ICO price was $2.40. And price crashed so badly and the sort of furor backlash was so bad for them that they actually bought back the ICO tokens at 90% of the price, which nearly everyone took up. Now, the foundation stated that these tokens were burned. However, they're actually being staked on the network as we speak. So, not exactly confidence-inspiring stuff there. Another important thing to note with Algorand is that if price can close above the previous 30-day moving average, the early investors and team members actually get their tokens unlocked at a faster rate. Now, I don't know if the right way to say it is it artificially keeps price down, but it certainly floods that particular market with supply and, keeps price down. In terms of Cardano, we saw a $2.60 high in May, and now we're trading at about $1.37, so generally in line with what we see in the market. And in terms of Celo, we had a $6.60 high in May and now trading at $2.37, and in just a really steady, slow decline and downtrend. So really, Celo's probably underperformed the general market, and Cardano's held up about how you'd expect everything else to hold up. So with Ripple, we have 1,500 transactions per second. Solana, I guess, is a new project or newer project. It doesn't actually specify. And with Stellar, we're looking at 250 transactions per second. Solana will take just separately first. They ICO'd at 50 and the price is now sitting around 32. Perhaps some of that initial hype from the ICO is kind of propping it up and helping it to do a little bit better than the general market. But in terms of Stellar and in terms of Ripple, we're certainly not seeing any kind of outperformance. I mean, Stellar had a high of 73 cents and it's now sitting down at 27 cents. Not really outperforming much there. And Ripple from 160 down to 66 cents. So nothing in terms of the price action that would lead me to believe that, there's whales getting involved or there's real momentum getting behind these cryptos just because they've been mentioned in this document. So once we move past the very basic explanation of how to get involved in crypto that they give and they move on to shilling the couple of projects or blockchains that they like, we then get on to what I believe is the real crux of the matter for them, regulation. They see it, as their value and relevance to governments in being able to advise them on how to regulate this sort of stuff and essentially take back control of their citizens' finances. So the other paper that they published is actually a guide to governments on how to regulate DeFi. Now, I don't know, drop a comment here, because is DeFi even DeFi if it's regulated? If a centralized authority has control over the rules and who can do what? I don't know. That's a pretty interesting and deep question. But in terms of what the World Economic Forum want, I think it's pretty obvious. They want control over this. There's an element of FOMO there they want to have their finger in this pie. This huge movement has started without them, and they had nothing to do with it. And we'll see in the next slide when we get to the team exactly how they're going about this. So now when we get to the co-authors of this document, we start to see a few really interesting names. We've got the Chief Legal Officer of Uniswap, we've got the CEO of Ripple, we've got the CEO of Stellar. We have a number of team members from the World Economic Forum, which appears that they're actually building a blockchain team or have built, and this is something they're going to look at going forward. And we also have a partner in Andreessen Horowitz, who, if you don't know them, they're the VCs that dump on you after your tokens are still locked post-ICO. Having gone through the documents and looked at what they had to say, I'm just really not sure what to make of it at this point. I'd be actually really interested to hear what you guys think. On one hand, they seem to be giving in terms of, shilling these blockchains that obviously some of us are invested in. And on the other hand, they seem to be taking away, taking the D out of decentralized. So yeah, not sure what to make of it. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say. If you enjoyed the vid, please give us a like and subscribe. Really helps us get seen. And cheers, lads. I'll catch you again soon. Nice one.